does a typical day in the Chittick household look like right now, in the middle of school holidays?
Well, it's pretty hectic, and we've got lots of kids coming to stay, and kids are on the farm helping out with Mark. And tomorrow, George and Charlotte are starting their paddy dive course. Ooh. So that's 3 days over at the Mount.
Okay.
And then they're back to school on Sunday.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, what do you guys like doing outside of the farm? Do you have lots of hobbies or? Tractors. Tractors for Charlie?
Yeah, he loves tractors and diggers.
Yeah? What about yourself?
I like riding the motorbikes.
Yeah?
Yeah, they're good fun.
What about you, Charlotte?
I don't have much outside the farm.
She does a lot of skiing.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I love snow skiing.
Yeah. And you?
Motorbikes as well.
Motorbikes, like the need for speed we've got.
Yep.
There's lots of mares here on the farm. Are there any of them that you guys are involved with yourselves?
Yeah, we have one mare who went in foal 2 to Vachi this year called Never Say Never.
Okay.
And we got a Sacred Falls colt out of her last year.
Does Dad let you have a good say in what happens, or do you kind of just go with the flow?
Just see whatever
his
happens.
recommendation.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Take them on board.
Yeah.
And this is a Savabeel colt. He's only a couple of hours old.
Oh, only a couple of hours?
Yeah, it was that one was just now, and this one was 10 o'clock or something.
Goodness. Mark, so often we come out here and we're profiling a new stallion or we're looking at some star horse, but today we just wanted to sort of get a little bit more background on yourself and just wanted to find out where it all started. Obviously, you're not from Matamata originally, but tell me about the beginning of Mark Chittick.
We were originally from the Wairarapa, and Gary was farming down there, and then sort of got into the horses. His father always had a few horses and raced a few horses and things, so he always had an interest in it. But he got into the horses and stood a stallion, super grey, and so I suppose from that age we were always around on the farm and always, let's say, involved with the horses as much as you can be when you're that young. And then we went from the Wairarapa to the Manawatu, and we had Windsor Park Stud there in the Manawatu, and that's where over that next sort of, I think I was about 8 or 9, so over the next, must have been 15 odd years, Gary was, farmers with horses, and we ran a mixed farming operation, bit of cropping and cattle and sheep and all sorts of things, and obviously the horses, and then we went to standing 2 and 3 stallions throughout that through the differing periods there, and so I always had a love for the rural side of things, and obviously still do now, and I do think that the best the people that make the best breeders are those that have a farming background, because there's so much goes into the mix between pasture and stockmanship and all sorts of things. I think a farming background certainly helps. Through that sort of 8 till early 20s, I was always involved in the farm, loved the farm. I was always outside on my motorbike, and probably horses weren't the top of the list. I used to do the lambing beat every year for Gary, but then it just obviously progressed. I was always going to do something rurally, always something with farming, and we still regard ourselves as farmers. We're farming horses. I think that gives obviously another angle, and we regard it as a lot more dynamic farming than a lot of other things. So it's always been a part of life, and from the Wairarapa days, Palmerston North, now the Waikato, and through the Windsor Park Stud days, and now Waikato Stud days, it's a family operation that we're all very hands-on in, and love that farming side of things, and love having all a family, and really it's one big family here, whether we're actually related or not, so it's good fun.
When you moved to Matamata, what was the original size property that you purchased here in the Waikato?
Yeah, so I was, when we first came here, I was 23 years old at the time, and we bought 430 acres, and the interesting thing at that time was it was already operating as a stud and had been for, I think it was 20 odd years beforehand. But one of the real keys, 2 things for us was one, to come to the Waikato, obviously the heart of horse industry in New Zealand. And also at the time we stood Centane in the Manawatu, and he was one of the top, the top sires in the country at the time. But it was Gary's decision to really target taking this place over going concern, taking Waikato Stud over going concern, and the main catalyst for that was because we had 50 mares in Palmerston North and they had 50 mares here at Waikato Stud, but their mares were of a whole lot higher calibre than what our mares were. And we sort of thought if we could get hold of those mares and put them to Centane, who was doing such a good job, it would take us to another level. And I think both those decisions, one to come here and two to buy the place going concern, have been very important in the success over the last 25 years.
What is the size of the farm now? I know you've bought up a few properties sort of around that original 400 odd acres. What are we operating at the moment? Yeah,
at this stage 1750 acres, mainly on this road, mainly on Tower Road, and a lot of that came about through the opportunities that O'Reilly gave us. We don't believe that we necessarily need that amount of land to run our horse operation on, but one thing about it is horses being the grazers that they are, it just gives us a massive opportunity to be able to spell areas, use them with different areas when they need have different uses during certain times of the year. But you take the middle of the farm down there that the mares and foals are heading to after they head out of the foaling unit. There was probably 4 months or 5 months during the winter, autumn and winter, that it didn't have a horse on it, so it gives us huge opportunity to spell areas and not overtax it. You see a lot of farms, they don't only need the horses, but you've got the other stock that sort of needs to follow along behind. What do you run here at Waikato? Yeah, so we fatten a lot of cattle as well. Very important part of the mix in our operation. Obviously for pasture management, and whether it's horses, cattle, or whatever animals we have on the place, we really do like having let's say, the best stock that we possibly can. So we always try and buy. We fatten somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 head of cattle a year. We always try and achieve the best results that we can here and have lovely stock on around the place. Yeah, it's very important for the pasture management, and also going back to that, let's say, that farming side of things. It's certainly a little part of the business that I really enjoy myself as well. Was there ever sort of a time during this whole journey that you thought maybe the thoroughbreds aren't for me, or has it just been a natural progression where you've not really thought twice about it? Once I started mucking out boxes, I had no choice to get out, and it's been great. I've never wanted to get out. You're incredibly hands-on here at the farm. We see you here with the foaling unit and with the stallions and everything. How do you sort of get that balance between work life, family life, juggling it all? Is it tough? It is tough, and that's why I think it's great when these guys, like, they haven't got a lot of choice. They've got to show some interest in it, because certainly for half of the year, it requires a lot of time on farm. And obviously I love it. We've got a wonderful team here, young, dynamic team at the farm. It's obviously of a size that I can't and wouldn't want to do it all myself, but the team that we've developed really do help me, and we all love it. It's a lifestyle for us. It's not a job. Great team around us, and the great thing about that is that team's setting a great example for these guys. If they have interest in it, they have interest in it. If they don't, there's no pressure. But I think that the experience that these guys see around here, and the systems, the horsemanship, and just the people's attitude, it just sets a great example for a wonderful community. Is there something sort of that you enjoy doing with the family outside of the stud? Yeah, well, we're certainly sort of hunting, fishing, outdoor sort of people. We always head down south every year for a couple of weeks, and Charlotte's going to school down there next year in Wanaka, so we'll spend a little bit of time down there. But I love taking the boys hunting and fishing and things like that. I think that's great time. It's great downtime, and usually in an area where the phone doesn't go, which is quite nice, get a bit of a rest from that. But certainly when we do get the opportunity, it's nice to be able to relax with these guys and have a bit of fun. We like achieving things. We spoke earlier about you obviously taking over the farm from Gary and how that progression has happened. How do you guys feel about maybe taking over the farm in the future? Is it something that you've thought about, or is it on the agenda?
Yeah, I'd love to take over the farm and like keep expanding it and growing to new places throughout the world and in the horse industry and stuff like that.
Is that the same for you too, Charlotte? Something you're keen to get involved in?
Yeah, I'd definitely love to help with that.
Yeah. And you spoke though, you're quite keen to go to university too?
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely, yeah.
I think when you run these sorts of businesses, whether it's a horse stud or a farm or whatever, the people that are running it, you're expected to be pretty well experts in a whole lot of fields, whether it's pasture management, horsemanship or stockmanship, through to running accounts, marketing, PR with people and that sort of thing. It's absolutely multi-dimensional, and I think, you know, these guys are getting that sort of a bit of a look at that.
Yep.
And if there's something Charlotte's talking about, focusing on, you know, human resources and marketing and that sort of thing, well, if there's
useful,
if there's a passion for it here in our operation, fantastic.
Does it make you proud that the kids are interested in being a part of Waikato Stud in the future?
Oh yeah, as I say, very proud that it's been a family operation, previous generations and now, and hopefully in the future. But no pressure on them if you know, if they want to go off and be brain surgeons. I'm sure they've got the ability to do that. We try and buy like the horses, we try and buy the best cattle that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And we just finish them off. They're here for, they're on the farm for, it's probably an average of 4 months.
Yeah.
And we try and go through have them all finished by the winter and try and go through the winter really lightly and just look after the farm.
Yeah.
You know, maybe there's another class of stock that we could run with the horses that we could actually make more money out of it. But we love being able to drive down the raceway here. Lovely 10-acre paddock, beautiful pasture in it.
Yeah.
And seeing beautiful cattle that are like the horses, being given every opportunity to do their best, whatever they're doing, whether they're putting weight on, whether they're growing a foal, or whether it's a foal or yearling or whatever that's being reared.
You're buying them as weaners?
No, a little bit older. They come on at around about 400 to 450 kilos, so they're sort of 18-month steers. We do run some heifers as well. You
obviously have the foals here, but do you do any calving as well?
Yeah, so we have calved a few cows this year because I've got a little side venture going on. I got involved with a guy that believes that we can produce highly marbled, fantastic beef with a pure Angus breed reared on New Zealand grass. So we've got 18 calves that were recipient cows, embryo transplant.
Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful little cows and calves, half boys and half girls.
Yep.
So we'll rear them through, and we'll either grow the little herd a bit, or they'll make great eating.
Yeah, one or the other. So we're here to talk about Scott Base this afternoon. Botsky Limited bred the horse. Tell me a little bit about Bright Hill's association with them.
Botsky is Nevin Bodica, who also owns Dalgar and a handful of mares that are at Bright Hill that we've been producing some very nice stock for Nevin throughout the years. And Scott Base is one of them. He was a nice foal. Probably a bit of the run-of-the-mill sort of Dalgar chestnut, which was a little bit off the wall.
Let's talk a little bit about Scott Base's mare, Extra Celestial. She was here at Bright Hill as well, wasn't she?
She was, yep. She was here. She's been to Dalgar a number of times and produced some nice stock. Scott Base was a really nice athletic type, and we also have a yearling going through the sales for this year who is also as nice as Scott Base.
So he also did a yearling preparation here at Bright Hill. Tell me about what you remember about him during that time in his life.
Yeah, I had a bit of association with him and remember him quite well. He was partnered up with a colt that I bred, and so they were going in and out together. So I remember him as a nice athletic type, plenty of leg. If you're going to be critical, a little bit narrow, but it turned into a beautiful athletic type.
It's probably about 2 or 3 weeks prior to the sales. We go up to the Cambridge Matamata area, Stewie Hale organises it, and it's been good. We go and see about 800 or 900 horses, and he was one of the Bright Hill draft that we had a look at. And I see him walking around. And you know, you write notes about every horse that you see.
Yep.
And
what was his note?
I had a look actually, and yeah, real good. And I've got marks that no one knows. It's a code.
Yep.
And yeah, they're good marks on all the aspects that I look at. I'm usually buying an earlier type for the 2-year-old Cracker Millions, which I'd be a bit renowned to do, I suppose. But I just wanted to see the 3-year-old race. I said, let's have a go at that. And he looked more, yeah, a bit more in the body, which I liked. My horses with a bit more leg under him. And as you see, he's quite a tall horse, quite a good sized horse. Yeah, so it was quite funny because I took one of my good friends around, which I usually go to the sales looking at horses on my own. And I said to him, mate, this is one I want to buy this. And he came around beside me and I showed him. He said, it's not your type.
Out he goes. He's selling. I cash him for 70,000. Up top.
You spent a little bit more than probably you normally would. Was that your belief in him as a horse?
If you want the horse now, you've got to get up there and buy them, otherwise you're coming home without a horse. In the old day I was buying them a lot cheaper and selling them as trial winners or whatever. And that's helped me buy them, you know, at this price a bit more now. Sometimes you get home and you think, gee, are you happy or not? And I was really happy when I got home with him at the price I paid too, so that was good.
What happens after the sale? Do they come back here?
Yeah, come here, we give them a spell and then start thinking about breaking them in. He got broken in pretty well straight away.
And did he do everything right?
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's getting a bit heavy in front, so we thought it might geld him. And he was a strong, sort of strong in himself and his mind. He wasn't dirty at all, but strong. But and that was just made the job a little bit easier.
The ownership in Scott Base, how did that come about?
John Norwood, he's been a good friend and partner of ours. He came into this when we set the farm up here. We had a break from the, well, I did Lord of the Rings for a few years and then John moved to Taupo, so he stopped for a bit. And then he just asked me at the sales if we could find a horse for the Cracker Millions. That's when I brought out Touche. He got third in the Cracker Millions. Yep. So from then on, we've been buying horses together.
Very successfully too.
Yeah, it's been good. His daughter, Joanne and John, are third owners as well. They came in on this one for a bit of fun.
And his name, Scott Base, how did that come about?
At the last minute, like a lot of people probably find, you've got to name them quite quickly because they've got to be named before 12 o'clock to get into the trial field. My wife's got on the diary, any good names she thinks of or hears, she puts a list on the diary. There's about 25, 30 names there, whatever. And so she said, right, pick a name. It's got to be done now. So I'm looking at the page and I said, oh, there's, what do you got? And I said, oh, Scott Base. And she said, no, that's not even on there. And I said, yes, it is. And she said, oh, it's up there. And she said, on the page just beside, it had Scott Base with a phone number on it. My boy who works in Antarctica.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that's where he was, at Scott Base, to phone him. So that's how the name came about.
Jono, tell me about the first time that you laid eyes on Scott Base.
Yeah, look, it was a while ago. Chris, the owner, obviously buys his horses and yeah, just come back to the farm after the sales. He purchased them and yeah, sort of, that was the first time we sort of can recall laying eyes on him, but big raw sort of horse, you know, big strong frame and yeah, a nice horse. He was always a green sort of a 2-year-old that always seemed to find the line, run through that pain barrier, and it was always our last horse stopping every time we did anything with him, you know. And yeah, we knew as a late 2-year-old he had a good chance at being a really good 3-year-old, and when he came back at 3, you know, he just went from strength to strength, you know, and a lot of those runs he was getting himself out of some pretty impossible positions, you know, albeit low-grade races, but you know, horses couldn't sort of do what he was doing a couple of those times. So we always had a pretty good inkling he'd be a really nice 3-year-old miler. I always watch it in the birdcage there. Look, it's just a bit of a lucky little spot there, right on the lawn, and rain, hail or shine, I'm there.
All the family was there, the staff. We were all there on trackside watching him.
We always head up to the top part where the owners go to watch the horses up the top, usually by the finish line, but I didn't quite get there. So I was down the bottom or got stuck.
Oh, no.
So I was on my own.
Oh, no.
So I had to break myself through the crowd to have a look.
And what about in the running? He has that racing style, doesn't he, where he gets back off them and closes. And were you turning for home thinking, oh, well, we might run a nice place?
That's all. That's all we thought, yeah.
Then next minute?
Next minute, you're just burgling along. I thought, gee, crikey, he's going in for a place.
Yeah.
And then he's just going straight past, and I couldn't believe that.
Embellish ranged up at the 150. Savvy Cape and Scott Base is flying down the outside. Embellish, Scott Base ranged up, put his head in front and got the money.
And what's the next day like? Because it's such a fabulous time of year, isn't it, where you just bounce straight into the sales. Was it quite overwhelming the next day with people coming up to you?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, to everyone coming to congratulate you and everything all day. It was massive, really. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And having the family there, like my wife there, she puts a lot of work into it too, and just reaping the rewards like that. And my kids, you know, they love the horses, but they don't know what I've been doing up there for 25 years.
Yeah.
They, you know, just coming up to the sales. Yeah, and seeing what it's all about.
Yep.
And it was, you get pretty proud when your kids see, you know, the results you can get from this.
Following on from the Karaka Million, he then went on to win the Group 2 Filkataro Guineas, a race sponsored by someone who you've had an association with?
Yeah, look, we're close with Phil. He's been very good to us. You know, he's put a lot of horses through our stable, and obviously a very astute livestock agent, and really good mate too, you know. So, no, it's good to win his race and take some money off him, but you know, we remind him of that quite a bit. But nah, it was a good win by the horse too, to come back from 2100, freshen up to 1400, and probably win from an impossible position.
What do you think makes him such a good racehorse?
He's always been a real natural breather, a horse that's sort of big aerobic capacity. You know, like he does find running easy to a point, I suppose. Yeah, he just one out of the box, I think.
What's it been like following his career for you guys here at Bright Hill? Has it been a real thrill?
Oh, it's been amazing thrill for us at Bright Hill. We're only a small team here. We only produce a small number of yearlings, and therefore probably a small number of decent gallopers. And we're so proud of him.
They're not easy to win, those big races, and especially probably from the central districts in New Zealand. You know, we're probably, it's looked down on a little bit, I suppose. You know, there's a lot more, a bigger clientele up here, bigger studs, better bred horses. So to sort of bring a horse from down there up here and compete, and not only compete and beat them, you know, it's satisfying. So we take a lot out of that, you know, and a little quiet, little low tacky with a little beach and a little 9-hole golf course. No, it's 18, I'm only having you on. But, you know, it is satisfying to come to the big smoke and get a good result like that.
So this is the first time that anybody's handled this foal in particular?
Yes, it is. Each foal will be different in how they react. So this foal is not hugely reactive for its first touch. It's doing well. Hey? Yeah, really well.
Do you find that the behaviour they show in that first reaction is significant going forward?
They definitely are all born differently, and they definitely seem to have a pattern of behaviour. So if they are really reactive the first time we do something, yeah, they do tend to be really reactive in the future like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How old is this foal now that we're looking at?
This foal will be just over 21 days of age, or around 21 days of age, which is when we begin with them. So it's kind of a cool story, actually. We have been doing it for 15 years, but we actually started on the directive of Sir Patrick Hogan, and Sir Patrick said to us, he said, you know, I really don't want you to start with our horses before 21 days of age, and he just didn't want us to upset that mare foal bond.
Yeah.
And we never really kind of realised like how important that was.
Yeah.
And so 15 years later, and lots of research, what we've found is that it's so important what he said.
This foal in particular is doing a good job. What are you kind of picking up on what's happening?
He's very emotional, much more emotional than is typical. You can see he's quite grumpy.
Yeah, and the ears
really,
back is...
You know, so he's scared, so he's angry.
Okay.
So if you see that, you know, he's really angry. But it's because he's scared.
So we just want to make everything comfortable for this mare. This mare is quite stressed because of the cameras. She is quite worried. And we will always, if she gets too worried, kind of quit a session. We're doing everything we can to make it as easy as possible for this mare. So she's backed into where her paddock is, so she's more comfortable because her friends are behind her. And she's just really worried about that camera. And also with her, you know, we've got her in a relatively small space, so it's a little bit easier for her.
How long would a normal first session go for?
This would be it.
Okay, so very, very simple.
Yeah. Very simple. We're just trying to, you know, give the mare an introduction of what's going on.
Yep.
And just the foal, because it really is the mares that are leading these sessions. This little filly, little Regis filly, it's her first day.
Okay.
So if I looked at this, you'd notice that the mare's just slightly calmer than the other mare was.
Yeah.
But actually this foal is slightly more reactive than the other foal. Although actually on the first touch it wasn't so bad, so it was almost more concerned about Sally coming in than the actual touch on it.
And the picking up the legs, is that just to kind of desensitise them?
Anything that they do with racing, they're always going to have their feet picked up.
Yeah,
You know, it's one of their things. You know, if they need to be trimmed and need to lead. So we're always setting them up to be racehorses, and this is one part of it.
And also, quite early in their life, these foals will get trimmed, start being trimmed by the farrier.
Okay.
So we want to help them do that comfortably by training them first, as opposed to the farrier having to handle them and, you know, trim them and train them all in one day.
I'm amazed how good they are, like with the halter and...
Brilliant, hey?
Yeah.
Notice how much more interactive this mare is than the one before.
Yeah.
So she's really chatting to her foal. So we really, you know, it's very important that they support their foal.
Is that her just saying it's okay?
She's just chatting away to it, yeah. They, you know, when I talk about the mares kind of run our sessions, is so important because she will let us know how her foal's coping.
Yeah. So were you happy with that session? Was that a really good one?
Yes, lovely, yes.
You can kind of notice the difference between those two foals is the other one was easier to pick up its legs, whereas this one was a little harder, but that actually walked better. So we'll often find the ones, some are better at standing still and some are better at moving. So, but cracking foal. So
this one is another day one?
No, day 2, so it's done one session.
Do you come back straight away the next day to handle them?
We tend to. We don't handle them more than 3 consecutive days though, so they might do Monday through Wednesday and then have Thursday off and go again on Friday.
Okay.
So I handled this foal probably day before yesterday.
Yep.
And it was quite reasonable.
Are you looking for the licking and chewing and showing signs that they're happy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's an indication that they've been in a certain level of arousal and now they're coming out of that, so there's relaxation. So this day so far looks much like day 1.
Yep.
But what I'm going to start doing is introducing stop and go. When you lead a horse, if Kirsty asks the mare to stop, you'll see she just puts a bit of pressure on the halter and the mare stops, and then pulls a little bit forward, the mare goes. This foal needs to learn that, so today we're going to start to put that little bit of pressure on the halter and ask for those responses. So when you're ready, we're going to stop, and I'm just going to do a little dink like that. Yep. And when you're ready, you can go, and a little dink forward, that's all. Just a little bit of pressure, but you can see because we have everything set up for the foal to move that way naturally, the mare's going that way, Kirsty's in front of it, I'm beside it. So the foal's very much set up to succeed.
Next week on Kiwi Bred, we follow the story of Melody Bell and get to know bloodstock agent Phil Cataldo.